get people from shying away from innovation? Like, do you think it's necessary for government to get involved?
You mean the U.S. government?
Or any government?
Don't ask Valentin. Right. Valentin is like an extreme libertarian. Government is not part of his vocabulary.
That's actually, I was going to say that's a good question to ask me, but of course, you know, we live in a paradigm where we do have a government. I do think private sector is more efficient, of course, but we do have a government that is supposed to take care of the interests of the people it governs. Now, it's true, I'd much rather not have a government that is taking care of me. Right. I don't need that, but we have it. So they should do the job that they're supposed to do, that they have been given, and protect the interests of the people that they're governing. And the Trump administration, at least, you know, has said many things. They've implemented some other things. In reality, not that much has been done yet. Like, if you wanted to be extreme, you would ban any Chinese company buying an American technology company. You just wouldn't allow it.
But our economies are so interconnected, Valentin. It's hard to do something that extreme without causing significant economic damage to both of our economies.
Sure, what you're saying is obviously correct. Anytime the government does something, it produces winners and losers. However, in the case of Chinese companies buying American companies, what's the upside for the Americans?
I mean, I believe
us buying Chinese goods, fair enough. We get cheap trinkets, okay, cool. But what's the upside of the Chinese state-owned company owning an American technology company?
I think that's a good question. I don't know.
So not much upside, a lot of downside. So I would say, and just this is a big if. If you wanted to be extreme and if you really wanted to be tough, then that's what you would do as one example. But second question, if I do have time.
Yeah, we're out of time, but go ahead.
Okay, very quick.
Go ahead,
very quick. What does the private sector do? What do the individual companies do? Why do they set up joint ventures in China when they almost guaranteed know that that their intellectual property is going to be stolen? Why do they do that? Why do they keep doing it? So that's a question each company should ask itself. You know, do I really value the Chinese market higher than my intellectual property rights? And every single company, and I know companies who have made that decision, they're like, we're not working with Chinese anymore. So every company could do that, and then, as usual, you don't need the government to make heavy-handed interventions.
Well, you are a China expert, Valentin. I think anytime I have a question, I'm going to reach out to you. It's been an education. It's always great seeing you.
Right. So great to see you.
Thank you very much.
So we're wrapping up the show with a segment brought to you by Engineered Tax Services, where engineering and accounting come together. Joining us on Skype is a familiar face, John Loudon. He's the vice president of ETS. And we are jealous because he's in Palm Beach, aren't you, John?
I am, although it even got a little cold here.
Yeah, well, whatever. You should be outside here. But anyway,
it's the 40s.
Really? Okay, well, our high today is in the low 40s, so there you go. So December 31st is approaching, and of course, according to Forbes and pretty much everyone under the sun, sometimes the most important phone call that owners of solo-run businesses can make in the next few weeks will be to someone like you, an accountant. And that's because of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act that took effect earlier this year. So how do you think this monumental change in our tax code has brought significant change to people who are self-employed professionals?
Well, first of all, I appreciate you recognizing that it brings monumental change. There are some people that are arguing that it didn't really
forgot
do that
about
much.
that already. Yeah.
It didn't do that much. It only helped the rich. No, it's helped everybody. There are very, very few people that have not benefited significantly from it. So you should talk to your accountant and get an early Christmas present in the form of more money for Christmas. One of the first things you might be able to do is make a smaller quarterly, fourth quarter estimated tax payment, because you're probably paying too much. The tax effect, the tax cuts have been pretty significant for both for individuals and for small businesses.
So what do you think, there's been rumors on the street that our returns are going to be less next year or whatever. Do you think quite the opposite then?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, tax rates are down across the board, and that's only going to be good. Everybody's going to be enjoying, almost everybody. I mean, there certainly are the people that got hit with the loss, the limited deductibility of state and local taxes, the so-called SALT.
Yeah, in this
taxes.
neck of the woods. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Not you down in Palm Beach, of course.
Oh, no, of course not. There's nobody in. See, down here where we don't have a state income tax. So, I love the topic was what are some of the moves you should do before the end of the year? And one of them is move to Florida where there's no income tax.
We would love to.
Yeah, you have a studio space down there for me, John.
Is it too late?
Yes, absolutely. I'll bring you to this one right here. So that's one. And another, if people have had a significant taxable event, you've revenues were up and maybe you were underestimating, or you had a big one-time event, there are ways that if you're facing writing a big check to the IRS, there are all kinds of tactics that high net worth individuals are using that you don't have to have that high net worth to take advantage of. We're looking at things like land conservation easements and oil and gas credits, and those are things that you can write a check that works out to either be an investment in the case of oil and gas, or land conservation easements that can pay 4 to 8 times what you would have paid the IRS. So say you owe $100,000, you write $25,000 for a land conservation easement, and you owe zero to the IRS. I mean, it's a big deduction, but those are things that have to be done before the end of the year, and those are things that certainly we can be helpful with. But there's another fun one. A lot of people don't. Go ahead.
John, I was just going to ask, what are examples of these big landmark events that small business owners may have?
Well, maybe you sold your business, or maybe you sold off part of your business, or maybe you had a windfall, a giant new client, and you're going to owe a lot more tax as a result, whether corporately or as a pass-through. And I have a friend who sold off part of his business. He's going through that right now in St. Louis. And we're helping him figure out what he can do rather than just plan on writing a big check to the IRS, or in the case of New Yorkers, write a big check to the state of New York.
Or the city, John. You forgot about the city tax here.
Oh, that's right. You got that too. So.
We have 3 taxes here on top of property tax. Yeah,
all the more reason.
Yeah, we're in a tax quagmire here. So, John, what's as we go into the new year, one of the big things that we always think about is, when's the best time to file your taxes? Tell our audience.
When's the best? On time. Best time to file your taxes on time. The IRS is very aggressive with penalties and fees for late payments. So as long as you've been making your quarterly estimated payments, and you should be all right. But file in April. But if you need to extend to October, which I may or may not have done once upon a time, then you should be okay. But the fun one is that doesn't get talked about a lot in the tax cut bill is the immediate expensing of equipment. That can be a new computer system, new phone system, a new machine for what you're doing, or it could be a new car. So you might find out that, gee, honey, we really can't afford the car that we didn't think we could. The business is expensing immediately that new car. So that's another thing to take a look at.
Well, John, it's always a pleasure. I am insanely jealous. We might be doing the show next week from your digs, so Don't be surprised when I show up on you.
All right, welcome. Love to have you.
Thanks, John.
All right, take care.
Well, that's the end of today's show. Thanks so much for being with us, and thank you, Sandra.
Thank you. This was fun.
It was fun. We had a great lineup of guests. And also, don't forget, our friend Diana Falzone will be here in not too long to host Bold Life in about 54 minutes. So see you soon.
Yes, have a great weekend, everyone.